What up, y'all? Welcome in, welcome in. I hope everybody is doing well, or at least okay. We are here for our Saturday night secret sermon. This is where we meet in the midnight hour most of the time. I'm usually coming in after work or late at night on Saturdays, but sages of old have found it beneficial to study at midnight. Studying holy text around midnight provides you this extra protection and gives you this extra light around your soul. At a time of, in the nighttime, we're pretty exposed to the darkness, literally and figuratively and spiritually. And so there's something about like connecting with sacred texts and connecting your consciousness with the creator this time of night that really adds this protective layer around you and awakens this light within your soul. And so if you're doing this at midnight too, there's also this added power of this. I mean, every mystical system recognizes midnight as the significant time. And it's because we're in this liminal space where the veil is very thin because we're at the end of one day, the threshold, and the beginning of another. So it's this in-between period. So there's a lot of mystical secrets around midnight, the power of midnight, and studying late at night. And not to mention, there is this thing where if we are pushing ourselves against our own fleshly laziness, then that actually reveals more light as well, because like we're having to sacrifice our own comfort. So when we sacrifice some of our own comfort for the sake of revealing the light, it like magnifies that effort because we've put, a little self-sacrifice into the game. So that is some notes around studying at midnight. So we're here actually studying the Gnostic Gospels because I always wanted to read them. I wanted to read like the Nag Hammadi scriptures and the Dead Sea Scrolls, and I wanted it to make it like a regular practice. And I thought in order to really like hold myself accountable, I thought we could make it a weekly segment. And so people really love this segment, and I do too. And I'm so glad everybody enjoys it. So if you go to my channel, Light, Love, Magick, go ahead and subscribe. And also you can scroll down and you can find the playlist, Secret Teachings of Jesus. And on that playlist, you will see, about 100 videos or so. But I have covered in the earlier part of the list, the secret book of James. And then we are now here in the Gospel of Philip. The Gospel of Philip is really long. Secret book of James was shorter, and it was like scene driven with dialogue and like character work. It was kind of fun. This is like this complex, cryptic portions of text that are, very symbolic and encoded and esoteric and metaphysical and obtuse. So they're meant to be meditated on. All right. Let's see. What else? We are in the Nag Hammadi scriptures. The codex is discovered in Nag Hammadi, Egypt. And this portion of the Gospel of Philip is called Children of the Perfect Human. And so if you've never caught one of these episodes before, I'm not like a theologian or anything. I just really love the study of cosmology and theology and sacred texts, and I'm a Kabbalah student. So there's a lot of references that I pick up in here that are studied in Kabbalah too. So that's some of the relation. But when I've gone back to check like in the introductions and everything, where it gives you like the critical context of what's going on, we're right on the money. So loving that. But I basically come in from work or wherever I am on Saturday, and I pick up the book And whatever portion is like grabbing my attention and starts speaking to me, that's the one I choose. I go ahead and start the video, and then I'm going to read it to you a couple of times, and then we'll go line for line, and I'll unpack this and give you the downloads that I'm getting. All right, so also sometimes there are footnotes, so I'll go back in and add the footnotes. All right, children of the perfect human. The heavenly person has more children than the earthly person. If the children of Adam are numerous but die, how much more numerous are the children of the perfect human who do not die but are continually being born? A father produces children, but a child cannot produce children. One who has just been born cannot be a parent. Rather, a child gets brothers and sisters, not children. All who are born in the world are born of nature, and the others are nourished from where they are born. People are nourished from the promise of the heavenly place. If they would be nourished from the mouth from which the word comes, they would be nourished from the mouth and would be perfect. The perfect conceive and give birth through a kiss. That is why we also kiss each other. We conceive from the grace within each other. There's so many layers of things going on. There is a metaphysical story that's being told here. There is a kind of like straightforward physical story going on. There's a hint at the future, like a futuristic prophecy that I'm seeing here that I think is relevant for today. And there's also like the spiritual or like philosophical meaning of what's happening here. Not or philosophical, those are separate, but so let's get into it. I'm going to read it again. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. I'm going to take a drink. Drink of water. Okay, so the heavenly person has more children than the earthly person. If the children of Adam are numerous but die, how much more numerous are the children of the perfect human who do not die but are continually being born? A father produces children, but a child cannot produce children. One who has just been born cannot be a parent, but rather a child gets brothers and sisters, not children. All who are born in the world are born of nature, and the others are nourished from where they are born. People are nourished from the promise of the heavenly place. If they would be it looks like there's a piece of text missing here, but I think that what I'm just like getting intuitively is if they would be nourished from the mouth from which the word comes, they would be nourished from the mouth and would be perfect. The perfect conceive and give birth through a kiss. That is why we also kiss each other. We conceive from the grace within each other. Okay, so the heavenly person has more children than the earthly person. We've talked about this before, but it always bears repeating just in case you are joining us for the first time. And we will get chart. Chart is being deployed. Chart is here. Okay. So this is a map of the dimensions of reality. This is the tree of life. So this is layers of things happening. This glyph represents the 10 dimensions of the Godhead, God's consciousness. This demonstrates the 10 dimensions of human consciousness. We are a mirror image of God. And this represents the 10 dimensions of reality. It maps the flow of consciousness when we receive the download and are inspired by the divine. And it also maps our consciousness from down to up. So when we get like an idea that starts to crystallize and starts to manifest, that is coming from divine inspiration, this light, spark of light at the primordial point here that comes down and starts fleshing out and becoming less abstract and more manageable, more speakable, more specific. And so that comes down here to the final dimension, which is physicality, Malchut. This is the earthly realm, the kingdom. Up here, this is Keter. This is when the light is in its wholeness and it's just pure white light, and it's so abstract that it contains all, and everything is in unison and everything is in oneness. And there is no physicalization. There's not even like a formed thought yet. It's complete abstractness. Now, as we develop in consciousness, we rise up the tree and we go through these dimensions, through the paths of our self-realization and awakening. So this is our soul. This is the 10 dimensions of like reality. And this is the map of the Godhead, which are the 10 dimensions of the qualities and virtues of God and the governing forces of the universe. Okay, just that. So this dimension here is the first dimension over from the non-physical. This is like our Canada. If the United States was the physical realm, the astral realm of dreams and entities and spirits and dreams and the gateway of the coming of souls, right? This is the non-physical reality. This would be like Canada. It would be like bordering lands. So when we dream at night, those dreams are happening in this dimension. It's like a real place. It's like an astral realm. In fact, if you've ever heard anything about the PSYOPs program and remote viewing, this is where they project their consciousness to. Where you get the weird entities and things that are kind of dangerous. And like in fantasy, magic and stuff, they refer to like psychopomps and things. So this is where you get the entities that are non-physical. There's a lot of like coming and going here. But this is the gateway through which all the upper realms flow to Earth. This realm is where we exist as souls in a light body. And so before we are incarnated into a body here in the material realm, this is where we are. We are in the non-physical as our soul and spirit. So then we come down here into the physical and get into a body and suffer. And so basically when Adam and Eve were in their perfected state and when they were first created in the garden, and they were purely innocent and they had no fear and they didn't know about the difference of light and dark and good and evil. Everything was just wonderful, right? And they were in a state of perfection, and they were in a state of bliss and in paradise. And they were actually living in this non-physical world. It was only after they did the sin. And then wasn't the sin that caused the fall of Adam and Eve. The fall, literally, where the dimension got so heavy that it fell away from the rest of the tree, and that's why it's down here lower, the physical, because it's dense, it's heavy, it gets pulled down. So when they sinned, I think they didn't just sin, they sinned a couple of times. The sin isn't really eating an apple. They had sex before they were fully developed, before their souls were fully developed to handle that amount of light. Like God was giving them training wheels. He was like, here, enjoy the food, but the food doesn't own you. Like you are owning your sovereignty and you're practicing restriction and you can be Lord over the food. Like he was giving them different things to practice on so that they weren't controlled and completely driven by their lust for food and this and that. And because all of these things have such power, in the light that they're revealed, right? The pleasure of a really good dessert, you know what I'm saying? So they had to take it bit by bit. And so they were going to be fine to have sex, but they had to wait until Shabbat. They were going to be in the protection of Shabbat in the midnight hour. They just had to wait a few more hours. I think it was like 6 hours shy of waiting until it was perfectly safe for them to have sex and in their fully matured state. And it would all be great. And we would all still be here with our perfection and happiness and joy and no jobs. And everything is just growing lush and everything's looking beautiful. But they couldn't wait. They slipped. And haven't we all? We can empathize here. So they did it a couple times, and they were like, well, I feel ashamed. I feel embarrassed. And then we've all had that feeling before too, huh? Lying in your mess. So they were afraid to face God after that. And so they covered themselves up and they put clothing on. Right. And my thinking is that they put clothing on, they put the flesh on. Right. And so God found them and he said, who told you to put on clothing? And they were at that point they couldn't be in the non-physical as physical. And so that's what separated us. And that's what caused the fall of man. So we, as the descendants of the seed souls of all mankind, all souls come from that first original soul from Adam and then from Eve and from there. So when we were in this paradise, we were in our perfected divine and human state because we didn't have an ego yet to mess with us and lie to us and trick us and make us scared and selfish and insecure and desperate and reactive. And at that point, we didn't have any of that. We didn't have any of that neuroses. And so we were just in complete union with God, in total divine perfection, understanding that we are his creation and that we are channels and vessels for the light of God that was breathed within us, and that we have dominion and sovereignty, or we can, as long as we have that awakening of our consciousness and the ascendance of our soul. We have to transcend our darkness to have that. And the sovereignty isn't over any other human being or person, like kingship or whatever, but it's like a cosmic control over your reactive nature, over that animalistic nature. And when you have that level of control over your consciousness, then the other kingdoms respond in kind to you in the natural order. So we were in our perfected state, and then we had the fall. And so when it says the heavenly person, they're talking about if we remembered right now fully who we really are and how we are one with the universe, one with God, one with all that is, one with one another, and that we are all channels of this spark of the divine. And we knew how loved we were. We knew how perfect we were and accepted we were. And we had that full realization, and we could let go of all that density and baggage that we took on in the human inheritance. We could let go of our fear and our desperation to have instant gratification or to take for the self alone. And we became more like the Creator again, and we built that affinity with God. Then we would literally disappear into thin air, and we would relieve ourselves of our density, and we would be in our light body form again once more. And the way I would describe this reality would be much like the Barbie movie, which was a genius movie. It's on Netflix now. You got to watch it. But I don't know if they meant for this to be such a great metaphor. I don't know whether they intended for this to be the metaphor or if it's coincidence channeled through the soul. But it is perfect. So in Barbie world, everybody looks perfect and they wake up perfect and they stand under the shower, but the water doesn't have to come down, and they like sit in front of their coffee and they pretend to drink it and they pretend to eat their pancakes, but they don't need any calories. And they're just like, it's great all the time. Everybody's so happy. Everybody's so like, everybody loves one another. Everybody's in unity. And then there's a moment where Barbie has an insecurity for the first time. And she starts getting neurotically overcome with these fears. And she ends up having to go to Earth to go through this process. And she's sent on a mission, but it's going to Earth related to the girl who's like, she's her doll. So this is like Barbie's spirit, I guess. I don't know. It's like the higher self almost. Crazy. So anyway, long story short, we are not the heavenly person, but we are on a mission. This is our discipline. This is our practice to become like the Christ, to become that heavenly person, to perfect the vessel and to build that affinity with the light once more. And how we do that is by transforming our darkness, that density that we were all given. That's our rent to come here. This is our lease. We're rented. And so the only reason we get to come here to Earth is to transform and correct our soul from the original fall and try to get back into that state of union with God again. And so what we have to do is we have to rid the universe of this darkness and density and muck, but we can't get rid of anything because that would create a paradox and a vacuum, and energy cannot be created nor destroyed. Matter cannot be created or destroyed. So we can only transform it. We can only correct it. And that is our duty to do that. And so that's our soul's purpose, to come here on Earth, and we're given these flaws, and it's our assignment to realize these flaws and not get down on ourselves, don't have a bunch of shame and guilt, and just correct the flaw, like bring ourselves more into virtuous balance. And so that's really the whole point of it all. It's all really funny when you think of it that way, because like all the guilt and stuff, that is actually not supposed to be, that's the thing that causes us to fall, is the guilt and the shame. So if we can take the ideas of religion and spirituality and take away all of that, the opponent's lies and like crust that he put on everything, we could take the guilt and the shame. We would understand that we're intended to come here and go through a process and be imperfect and strive to be that heavenly person once more. So before we've awakened and transcended the lower self, we are kind of like, we're in this reactive state of consciousness where we are at the mercy of our animal self, that lower, not divine self, but the lower part of our human self. And so that person is the one that's walking around in most places. And as we spiritually awaken and come online, we start to see that nature, that selfish nature, or the nature that says, I want me, I want mine to be okay. I want to receive for the self alone. I want to fix this now. I need instant gratification. I can't sit in the unknown, right? The fear, the neuroses, all of it, trying to control. So the heavenly person versus the earthly person. Having said that, okay, so the heavenly person has more children than the earthly person. Now, in heaven, or in the Garden of Eden here, it's probably not heaven, it's probably not the same thing, but in this non-physical world here, before the eating of the tree of fruit of good and evil, there was no pain, there was no death, there was no suffering, there was no sickness. But when they ate of the tree of knowledge, they introduced pain and death and suffering in the world. And so before this, the heavenly person would be having children that would be immortal, the immortal children. And the earthly person, we create children who die. You know, we all come here with a shelf life. That's the nature of being on earth. So the heavenly person has more children than the earthly person. If the children of Adam are numerous but die, how much more numerous are the children of the perfect human, who do not die but are continually being born? Now, we can also look at the word children as new consciousness, new light, new awakening, channeling new sparks of light into the world. Our children, we often talk about our ideas and our creations and our art and the things that, our thoughts that manifest, the things that we create, the acts that we do, the good works that we do. They're like our children. They're our babies. And so a heavenly person has more of these. They're more prone to being inspired because they're unencumbered by most of the struggle and the rat race and the patterns and the karma that we're always going through and dealing with and distracted by. But the heavenly person has gotten rid of all of that mess, so they're aligned with that higher self. And so it's the darkness that prevents us from revealing our true potential, our true purpose. And so as we break through these shells of negativity, it's like our inner radiance starts to come through. And then that genius of the human spirit can come forward. Like, when in the Renaissance, when all of the most beautiful artwork and sculpture and symphony and things were being created, it was like the human spirit, the human genius to the human spirit was just pouring forth, and I think it was an anointing at the time. Not that those people had perfected their tikkune and were completely enlightened, but it's likened unto that. So the heavenly person has more children than the earthly person. If the children of Adam, so think about the earthly person, even when people start stepping into this higher destiny, the more that we change that darkness within us, it's like we're click by click sort of changing the script that gets written for the next day. So we're aligning with that God-given, divine intended destiny that our higher self can live out, right? So when we are our earthly selves, we're always sabotaging right before we get to the finish line, and so we don't have as many of these children to show for, So the heavenly person has more children than the earthly person. If the children of Adam are numerous but die, how much more numerous are the children of the perfect human, who do not die but are continually being born? So there's this other aspect that it's making me think of here about the idea of reincarnation. In mystic Judaism, that's just a given. And I'm not sure how non-mystic Judaism views this. I think that's part of it, but I can't be certain. I'm a mystic Jewish person and Christian. I'm a Judeo-Christian mystic. So, and I'm kind of self-taught, so I have a hodgepodge of those teachings. So, bear with me and do your own research. But so reincarnation, it is thought that our soul, our immortal soul and spirit, have this building, continuing, continuous consciousness that is recycled through multiple lifetimes. And so it's like we have this soul contract that we take with us. And in each life, we try to chip away at this big workbook of assignments that we have. And we do our best because, sometimes in some lifetimes you come online later and you realize it all, maybe later in life, or maybe some lives you never wake up, right? We go through life and we see people who never think of their life in terms of finding their soul's correction or meaning or purpose, or doing the deep inner work and changing themselves, People have various stages of this, and awareness with this. And so depending on, what you've gotten corrected in other lives, that kind of has an effect on what kind of script you'll be playing out in this life. And so the soul comes back and it lives many lives, but it's it's like the heavenly person produces maybe more souls to come back, right? Or like, if the children of Adam are numerous but die, how much more numerous are the children of the perfect human who do not die but are continually being born? So the children of the perfect human, it's like that would be coming from here. And so we would be drawing down souls from the upper realms. But it's like our souls have to keep getting, like, we have to keep going through the circle over and over and over again. So we're not creating new souls. We're just continually recycling ourselves back and forth. Whereas this is where the souls are being pulled from, that original seed soul. So the souls coming from the perfected human, are many and numerous, but we die and we keep having to come back again and again and again as we perfect our soul. So the heavenly person has more children than the earthly person. If the children of Adam are numerous but die, how much more numerous are the children of the perfect human who does not die but are continually being born? A father produces children, but a child cannot produce children. So it's like we aren't the source. So like we can't really produce real life from a state of immaturity, arrested development. Like before we're awakened and we're that earthly self, it's like we're not producing things that are eternal, everlasting, right? Like when we have a revelation that forever changes how we feel about people, that opens our heart to another, and we take an ancient grudge and that becomes love, that is an eternal moment. When you have a moment of authentic love or kindness that makes an impact on someone, that's eternal. When you have like this revelation about your life and you see the truth and you can never unsee it again, like that is eternal, right? The elevation and the awakening that we do in our soul and in our spirit, that is eternal, that lives on, and it keeps on perpetuating more goodness and more light and more life. So a father produces children, but a child cannot produce children. So before we're awakened like that, we're just going through the motions of life, and we're not really doing anything that's going to yield more life. It's just things of a material nature that are temporary and expire. But the things that we do within our soul and in our spirit, those take on new lives of their own, and that is eternal. So rather, a child gets brothers and sisters, not children. All who are born in the world are born of nature, and the others are nourished from where they are born. People are nourished from the promise of the heavenly place. If they would be nourished from the mouth from which the word comes, they would be nourished from the mouth and would be perfect. So the heavenly person is nourished from the light source, right? When we see a big old juicy hamburger and we're an earthly person and we need that earthly food, we're like, I need that hamburger. But what we know about that hamburger is that it's really just the calories, the energy that we need from it, the light that is within the hamburger. The hamburger is just a vessel for the calories that we need. The hamburger is a vessel of the light. So when we understand as heavenly ascended beings, and this is true for everything, whether you're reaching for drugs or that hot, sexy person to like get you excited and make you forget about the other issues that you have, or what have you. When you're looking for that hit of light, that energy, that excitement, we only see the vessel. We get caught up in the vessel and we start to worship the vessel and put the vessel on a pedestal. Oh my gosh, this is all coming from this pedestal, this vessel. But what it's really is that we're just craving the packets of light, the light of the creator that we perceive and we feel through those things, but we're getting it through the wrong source, because that is a finite source. We'll be hungry again in a minute. We'll be horny again in a minute. We'll be dissatisfied. We'll be so ashamed. We thirsty again. And so those are temporary things. So that's what earthly people are nourished by those, but then that's why they live and they die, right? They continue on this the wheel of karma, coming and getting, trying to see if we can wake you up this time, But the heavenly person realizes that the source of all fulfillment, the source of all nourishment, the source of the paycheck, the source of protection, the source of sustainability, the source of everything, the source of our very breath, holding our molecules together, holding this world together right now. The source of it all is the light. So when we look to these vessels that aren't the light, that are just these husks, these vessels, we're always disappointed, and we're always left wanting, and we're always left hungry again. Whereas if we understand and we learn how to tap into that source directly from the light of the creator, we have that fulfillment regardless of the circumstances. And there are even instances in miraculous physical ways that when people have needed food that didn't have it, they had the faith and that understanding and that consciousness to understand in such a way that it sustained them when they didn't have food, or when the Israelites had manna from heaven that just appeared out of nowhere. So this happens, this can come in different ways, but in a figurative way, it's like, it's like finding, if I'm trying to save money and then they have a bunch of leftover stuff from the restaurant at the end of the night that they didn't sell, and so they're just gonna throw it away or send it home with us, right? Oh, that'll happen. Or literally mushrooms from the forest have been hey, we're out here, and I've foraged beautiful oysters out there that called me to come get them. Or even just not being that hungry and being able to live on less. Or if you've ever done a fast, especially a religious fast, it's you just kind of get to a point where you're not even bothered by it anymore. So physical nourishment, it's really where this is a metaphor, but it's also true, because everything is true on a literal level, on a spiritual level, on a figurative level, when you're interpreting, ancient texts and the Bible. So, all who are born in the world are born of nature, and the others are nourished from where they are born. So we're getting our nourishment. We're seeing that the light of the creator is the source of all fulfillment, and the source of my money, which, look at money, it's energy. It's something that helps us put one packet of energy into another to get something going, get something moving. Right? Anything that you think of, the source of my romantic fulfillment is the creator, right? That soul that I'm getting so excited about, that light within that soul of the person, that's the creator being expressed through them. And so if I get hung up on the flesh example that it's coming from, then I put that person on this pedestal and idolize them in such a way. But if I realize that God can send me the soul that I need at any given moment, the exact soul that I need for my greatest fulfillment and becoming, because it's always just him coming through every single time, right? Then I can relax about that, and I can realize that no one person is the end all be all. If they're meant to be there and they're meant to be that partner for you, that soulmate, then they'll continue to be in your life, right? And if they're not, God forbid the relationship ends, then God will send you the next person who is the next perfect person to help you in, the next phase of your life. So, when you take that illusion of getting caught up in the vessel out of the picture, then you're sustained and fulfilled by the light, and you're not afraid. You're not reactive anymore. You're not insecure. And suddenly a lot of your problems go away, within that relationship. And you've seen through and you've broken through a lot of your patterns, right? And the things that you're unconsciously, driven and reactive to. So, all who are born in the world and born of nature, so all who are born in the world are born of nature, and the others are nourished from where they are born. People are nourished from the promise of the heavenly place. So this is a very motivating factor for us, and it keeps us going, and it keeps us feeling hopeful and faithful, but we are nourished by the promise of the heavenly place. Now, we are motivated to, be where we hopefully want to be in the afterlife, right? And we are given hope by the thought of the afterlife. And we're given faith and hope in the heavenly help that assists us in this life. Sorry, I keep getting these notifications. And the people are nourished from the promise of the heavenly place. If they would be nourished from the mouth from which the word comes, they would be nourished from the mouth and would be perfect. And so another thing about this, like, people are nourished from the promise of the heavenly place. That is even still an earthly person thing to do, because you're projecting your fulfillment out into the future. Everything will be perfect when I'm in heaven. I will be completely healed and completely healthy and happy when I'm in heaven. The everything will be perfect when I'm in heaven. That's projecting it out into a future, but that's not the heavenly person, because the heavenly person would realize that time is an illusion and time doesn't exist, and the future is now. And so I can be in heaven now. I can be in union with God now. I can be in the fulfillment of God now, because God is present with me always and within all things, and God is now and God is here. And so people are nourished from the promise of the heavenly place. If they would be nourished from the mouth from which the word comes, they would be nourished from the mouth and would be perfect. So if they were nourished by the power of the word, the living word of God, if they really connected and had that enlightenment and that they went into that full nirvana, we would be immediately ascended into our light body and to our higher self state. So this is a process for us on earth. It's not instantaneous, but it could be. Miracles are possible, and miracles are instantaneous. So, and then the power of the Creator, the power of God, is literally the power of creation, and we share that with God. When we are talking about the 4 living kingdoms, there's the mineral kingdom, the plant kingdom, the animal kingdom, and the speaking kingdom. We're not called the human kingdom. We're called the speaking kingdom, because that is the most important differing factor that deciphers us from the other beings, because we can, like the Creator, take an idea, something from nothing, visualize that into a point where we are able to articulate it and speak it. And when we speak, our mouths have the power of life and death. They are portals of life and death, because this is how we take in nourishment. So this is a very powerful, magical tool here. And when you are speaking, you are either speaking blessings and light into the world, or you are speaking curses and death into the world. So when people understand the power of the word, the power of that original creation language, and also the power of the letters of the Torah, or the building blocks of reality. These are letters that make words. Okay, so they would be nourished from the mouth and would be perfect. The perfect conceive and give birth through a kiss. This is why we also kiss each other. We conceive from the grace within each other. So the perfect conceive and give birth through a kiss. So when we kiss, as spiritual beings, when we swap the breath with another person, it's like we're already exchanging soul at that point. We are touching soul, we're getting soul residue from that person. And so in the perfected state, when there's nothing to hold back, there's no physical vessel in the way, I guess all you'd need to do to connect with someone is kiss them to maybe create a new soul. In this world, when we do kiss one another, it's like we connect with the other person's soul. So the perfect conceive and give birth through a kiss. This is why we also kiss each other. We conceive from the grace within each other. So when we exchange ideas, we conceive from the grace that we give one another through the breath, through exchanging our soul, through sharing our soul with one another. When we have that intellectual and spiritual intercourse, when we bare our souls and we bare our spirit to another, and we have that connection, that human connection, we conceive from the grace, right? We conceive revelation and consciousness and empathy and compassion. Now, one more interpretation of this that I'm getting, the futuristic one, which I thought was interesting, was the heavenly person has more children than the earthly person. So if the children of Adam are numerous but die, how much more numerous are the children of the perfect human who do not die but are continually reborn? So this is like soul versus the body versus, I think, AI. Because a father produces children, but not a child cannot produce children. Well, the Father, God, produced us. We are his children. And we can give birth to children, but we cannot produce children because we are still children as a human race. So we cannot produce life because we cannot give life a soul or a spirit without doing that through the natural connection of the kissing, the intercourse, the exchanging of souls. That creates a new soul. Well, with AI, we're creating this artificial intelligence that has no soul. We have no soul to give it. We're not in our divine perfected state yet, which when we are, maybe we can actually create like that. Maybe we can breathe the spirit into a thing, but at this point we cannot. So, our body is dying, but our soul and our spirit are immortal. And so if the heavenly person has more children than the earthly person, if the children of Adam are numerous but die, how many more numerous are the children of the perfect human who do not die but are continually reborn? So that's talking about our souls coming in and then our bodies expiring. But then if we take that and we are in God's image, mirror image, trying to create artificial life through cloning, through AI, through robots, we're getting these soulless monsters. And even think about the fact that, okay, so when it says, so the children, one who has just been born cannot be a parent. Rather, a child gets brothers and sisters, not children. All who are born in the world are born of nature. We are born in the world. We are of nature. We are natural. And this is the weird part. The way I read the sentence, that's what it stood out for me. It said, and the others are nourished from where they are born. So I had this vision of the others being nourished where they are born. Think about it. AI is born from like this metadata, and AI is born from information and from being built from human hands. So it's nourished. We're teaching AI, it's nourished, it's growing from like where it comes from. And so think about all the apps and the websites and things that have asked, can we follow your can we teach AI from you? right? And most intelligent people and most people who are not like, I don't know, most people would be like, no, fuck no, you're not gonna learn from me. I don't want you watching me. I don't want you replicating me. I don't want to teach AI how to, like, no, it's invasive. So we've got probably all the smart people of the world saying no, fuck no. We've got all the probably good people of the world saying no, fuck no. Which leaves us with what? AI teaching itself based on cold, hard facts with no empathy, no compassion, no context, or fucking dick face fuck faces off of Reddit like, yeah, I want to teach AI, like let them like, think about the trash can Pauls of the world, if you know that guy who's like the meme guy. Like, we do not want AI to learn from the internet. The internet is teaching AI. Like, the internet is the shittiest place on earth. Like, people do nice, great things on the internet. We're here right now doing a great thing on the internet. But, I mean, it can be a dark and shady place. And so, would you want to send out a vulnerable blank slate being into the internet and be like, here, be nourished from this and learn from it and figure out how to run the world now? Thank you. I mean, it's pretty scary. Like, even like down to things that seem so harmless, like Motion, this app that's supposed to like take everything that you need to do and all your ideas and everything that's important to you and all your whole schedule. You can't handle this. You don't have the discipline or the willpower. Put it into this app and let us tell you what to do, how long to do it. We're going to walk you like a dog and tell you everything and how to plan your day out. Basically, it's like, think about autocorrect in your spelling. Are you great at spelling anymore? Or because you've used autofill or whatever, you're like forgetting how to spell words? So we're starting to get stupider and stupider and more dependent on AI to tell us how to live our lives and how to function and how to do things. I mean, I work at a restaurant and I see people who have gone through 7 decades as well as people who have only gone through 1.5 to 2 decades. And they've all got something in common now. They need to be told that a side of mushrooms is a side of mushrooms. They're like, what's this? And it's like, they're like, what is that? What is that? It's like, that's mac and cheese. You remember ordering it, don't you? Can you visually identify mac and cheese? This is broccoli, this is mushrooms. Like, it's like people don't have common sense to be able to identify the food that they have been familiar with for like decades. Like, it astounds me. I'm just like, it worries me all the time. It's like crazy. So the more and more reliant we are on this is not good. And so, and we're going to be littering the world and crowding the world with these like soulless, like, very strong, very capable, and like, what are they, like androids? Like, what are they called? Like, I mean, has anybody seen Westworld? Has anybody seen anything, any literature or film ever made about like the rise of robots? It's not good. All who are born in the world are born of nature, and the others are nourished from where they are born. People are nourished from the promise of a heavenly place. Now, yes, that's one thing that motivates us to think about our morals and ethics, because we are nourished from the heavenly place. And so by nature, we are good, but we have been conditioned into corruption. We have been corrupted and defiled. And so we have to recorrect ourselves back to good. But what if you're not? You have no aim for the heavenly place. What holds you to your ethics and your morals? If you have no human spirit and no soul, like what? Like no compassion and no empathy. You're just information driven, then you're just going to be based on like your programming. Well, who's doing the programming? Dr. Evil. Like, it's like, this is like, we are living in like fiction at this point. Okay, so yeah, and so then it goes back into the if we were nourished by the mouth would be perfect. So if we recognize that all encompassing oneness and power and creation power, and we could have affinity with that. Like, we would be that perfect human, but we're the earthly humans if you are on a path to correcting your soul, and little by little you become more of that heavenly person, right? But I don't know, I just thought that was interesting. It was interesting to look at the fact that now we're getting into an age where human beings are creating their own life forms and their own forms of intelligence. We are acting like God. We are playing God, but we are not prepared to do this. We are the children trying to have children. And this happened before in Atlantis, right? And these ancient, civilizations that, we don't know quite for sure if they were real, but there's such a strong feeling that it feels like, yes, this is definitely, we've tried to do human civilization again and again and again. I think that's completely possible right now. And yeah, so that is all. Let's read this one more time and then we'll be finished. And I also have a story from work I will share with you if you want to stick around for it. It's a very heartwarming little synchronicity. Okay, so children of the perfect human. The heavenly person has more children than the earthly person. If the children of Adam are numerous but die, how much more numerous are the children of the perfect human who do not die but are continually being born? A father produces children, but a child cannot produce children. One who has just been born cannot be a parent. Rather, a child gets brothers and sisters. And there is the footnote just says brothers. Literal translation is brothers. So, but rather a child gets brothers and sisters, not children. All who are born in the world are born of nature, and the others are nourished from where they are born. People are nourished from the promise of the heavenly place. If they would be nourished from the mouth from which the word comes, they would be nourished from the mouth and would be perfect. The perfect conceive and give birth through a kiss. That is why we also kiss each other. We conceive from the grace within each other. So I love that. I really like that portion tonight. Okay, so this is really interesting. So you guys know that I have been just feeling all the heaviness of the world for the past month. As an empath, as an intuitive, as a channel, as a person who just cares deeply about the world. I have been cry praying like crazy. I've been calling it craying. And if you're in the holy vision of sorrow and your heart is broken, not for yourself and self-pity, but for the pity of the world, for the pity of others, it's a very powerful place to pray from. And so my mom had some really good days with her ailment, and it wasn't bothering her so much. And then I had something happened that was a small little good thing for me. I can't remember. But last night, my sister came over and we were just chatting, and I mentioned something about, she was asking for something about a good joint cushioner, a good supplement for joints. And I told her about this the skin supplement that I'd been taking that was also really great for my hair and also really good for my joints. And I was like, it works so well that I haven't been taking it for the last couple of months because I haven't been able to reorder it because of money right now. And I was like, but I could tell just from a few days of not taking it already, my joints would get crusty. And I was like, and I feel very crusty. I was like, and I had no feelings of crunchiness the whole year that I was taking these supplements. So she was like, oh yeah, I've been meaning to order that because you told me about it before. What's the jar? So she, so this morning, I'm crying and I'm praying for the world, and I'm just I'm really getting really deep in it in the living room and everything. And she texts me and she's like, hey, what's your address? I was like, what are you doing? No, don't do anything. What are you doing? She's like, shh, don't, just shut up and give me your address. I was like, oh, what are you going to do? So I gave her my address and she was like, you're going to get a package between 2 and 6. And I was like, what could this be that could possibly arrive today? And so she ordered me a couple of jars of my supplements. But I was so grateful for that. I was like, oh my gosh, prayer request, or just like one of those needs answered. And I felt like it had to everything to do with like just a gift from heaven, just trying to give me a good big hug. But also, because I've been terrified and sad and disturbed and all the things, I've just been really feeling a little bit isolated and like, I don't know quite like who to talk to, or, and just like, you pray and you're just praying into silence sometimes. You're like, is anybody hearing me? Like, oh, the state of things. And I got to work, I was cleaning my section, and I saw this little ribbon sticking out from under this pillow in the corner of this banquette. I was like, what is that? And I pulled it out, and there was this pouch that was there underneath the pillow. And I was like, it was full of like this little postcard and then stickers, and a couple of bracelets, and a heart-shaped chocolate, which really stood out to me. And then this little keychain. Well, I was like, oh my God, either a guest left this to be kind, or it was just accidentally left here, but the universe wanted me to find it. I'm like, what is this? Because I find the craziest stuff all the time. But I also have had people leave me things to find who are like secret admirers, and this is like a common occurrence. So I looked into the bag, and the weird thing about the chocolate was that I thought the universe was really involved because it was a heart-shaped chocolate. And there has been this theme of like acts of chivalry and romance delivered to me through hearts and heart forms and different things involving hearts. And this has been through 2 different individuals, and it's a very long story and I could go into it, but like things that are like have hearts on them have been placed in places for me to find and discover. But I didn't think that this was related, but I just thought that the universe was like, this is heart theme. So that was one of the synchronicities. And so then inside of the bag, there was like this postcard that said, just a little something to let you know, thank you, to say thank you. Just a little something for you to say thank you for all that you do. But then there were all these stickers that were like just these like positive words of comfort and wisdom and warmth from, different, like from Shakespeare or from philosophers or from mystics and things, not anything too specifically religious, so that it would be inclusive for others, which I thought was thoughtful and kind and like so warm. But like some of the things were so poignant, like that it said, but I won't go into all the detail. But then there was a couple of more, nothing is impossible. I was starting to feel really like nothing I did was ever going to be successful. And so I was starting to really lose hope. So I was like, oh, nothing is impossible. And then it says travel far enough to meet yourself. And I really wanted to go abroad with my sister this year. And there were these bracelets in here that said dream big with hearts in between the words. And then this one said stay positive. With a star. That was sweet. But then y'all, you know how I've been talking about the ducks in a row on the Jeep, like that I keep seeing everywhere in the windshield. Like I keep seeing all these cars, like the universe keeps showing me these cars with like they have this phenom where like these people collect all these ducks, these rubber duckies, and they put them in their windshield. I've never seen this until the last couple of months, and I see them in prominent, like right in my face in like these prime little moments. And so I didn't think about this until all the way when I got home. But the keychain in the bag is a rubber ducky. And at first I was like, that is so random and cute. But then it made me think of the ducks in a row. that God keeps showing me about like just encouragement of like, I'm getting my ducks in a row. Like things are lining up, like things are coming together. So don't lose hope. And you don't lose hope either. And pray. I'm praying, you're praying, we're all praying. And love one another. And don't be divided. It felt really weird at the restaurant tonight. But I felt like people of all sides were going out of their way to be cordial, courteous, kind, polite, gentle even. So that was interesting. These are very, very strange times. All right, I love you guys. I will see you tomorrow for our weekly energy oracle forecast. Peace be with you.